Hi Ray, we're at the Task, the Anglican Schools Corporation Day of AI event today in Penrith in Western Sydney.
Do you know, I was amazed when I arrived, Dan, because there are literally hundreds and hundreds of teachers queuing up outside dutifully, waiting to get into the venue. And it's a day that is completely teacher-centric. I've been listening to some of the sessions, and I want to bring you one of the teachers from one of the sessions. But before we do, Dan, we've talked about NotebookLM heaps.
A lot.
I've just been in a session where I've realised that I've got it all wrong.
Oh, no.
Dan.
I need to learn more. So who have we got today then?
Okay, so today, Dan, we've got Maria Mertzanakis from Oran Park.
Yeah, Oran Park Anglican College.
Now, I've just been hearing you talk about how you use NotebookLM, and you talk about NotebookLM as being the brain. And I think what was really different about it was that you talked about the guidance and steering to it. So it wasn't just give it curriculum documents, it was giving instructions on what to do. So do you want to just give us an overview of how you think about it and how you use it?
Yeah, so I think with being teachers, we're just naturally very busy. And so we're always looking for ways to improve our efficiency, but without compromising our pedagogy. And so we've used brains and we've designed brains to assist us in drafting assessments and various other projects like resources as well. So we feed it our curriculum documents, we feed it our syllabus, our units of work and past assessment tasks. And then we interact with the brain to generate work for us based on what we've already fed it previously.
Now, when I first heard you talking about the brain, I was thinking, oh, this is just NotebookLM. Or this is somehow turning artificial intelligence into something else. But then you started talking about the things that you upload to it in addition to curriculum docs and stuff like that. It was almost like a bunch of custom instructions that you were turning it into performing a role for you.
Yeah, I guess our brains do have personalities and a purpose in this world. And so we do give it comprehensive descriptions by adding notes in that particular section. So we will give it a brain description so that it knows exactly what it's required to do and exactly how I would like the output. We're a universal design for learning school, because we do have learners of varying abilities. And as such, I've also uploaded a note about the universal design principles and how I would like that set out and what elements of universal design I would like the brain to draw from. And further to that, we also have students who struggle with articulation and written writing. So we also provide the brain with ways of providing written scaffolds for students. So being very explicit in the instructions that we give our brains so that they can actually work for us, not against us.
Is it the brain or is it brains? Is it plural? Do you
We have multiple.
I thought so when
Yeah.
you said that. So the different teachers have a standard way to program the brain, or have you got a set way to think, okay, well, we're going to put UDL stuff into all of these?
Yeah, so it depends on what the brain is used for. So when
Right.
it comes to the assessment design brain, that does have UDL principles, because part of our policy is that your assessments need to be inclusive of all learners. But when it comes to other brains, say, for example, a head of faculty uses a brain as a troubleshooting handbook, they have full reign of how that brain is programmed, because it's all about suiting your needs in
Gotcha.
leadership.
Gotcha.
So in the example I saw, you gave it 3 sets of instructions.
Yeah, so we give it instructions about our policies. We also provide it with instructions about how we like the material presented, how we like it written, so that it's very explicit in terms of the output. So we try and give it as many detailed instructions as possible. And I think what I like about our prompts is that you can actually use other AI to generate a prompt for you if you're not great at generating them yourself. All you need to know is what you want out of it as a teacher. So it's not about you becoming a tech person when you're engaging with these tools. You literally just have to take on the role of a teacher and speak to it like teacher talk.
Yeah, it's almost like you're giving instructions to a new teacher or a TA that's going to go off and do a task.
Exactly like that.
Yeah. Okay. So you have 3 I saw in the example. One was role. The second was around differentiation and UDL. So is it just a set of instructions that you would give another person?
So no, it's also around pedagogy. We're very mindful that when we're using AI, we are still the expert in the room and we're using it to improve our workflow, but also to enhance our pedagogy and best practice. So when we are programming that differentiation piece, I will go into the principles of UDL, writing scaffolds, how it should appear in the output, So it's incredibly detailed so that what I get back is what I actually want.
Okay, and then the third set of instructions you gave it, that was around syllabus outcomes. Now, that's different from the syllabus thing, because you had the syllabus, you'd uploaded that document already, but there was this extra thing around syllabus outcomes. So what's that?
Yeah, so sometimes AI can hallucinate, as you know. So I always add a note about syllabus outcomes so that it knows specifically which outcomes to choose from. And you would have noticed in that program as well, I also had the life skills outcomes. That way, the brain doesn't have to go looking for it. It's just all there, ready for it to read and produce.
Do you do training internally with your staff?
Yeah, so
on
I've
this?
run all the staff training on NotebookLM and other AI tools, and they all have step-by-step guides
Cool.
as to how to use these tools. And we always run a pilot program. So after the tool's introduced, we run a 6-month pilot program and then review with the heads of faculty at the end how that went before it's released at scale.
That's great.
I'm the head of teaching and learning in the senior school, so I do look at strategy, big picture, how to improve student learning outcomes.
Amazing.
But part of my role is also looking after my staff. They're the most valuable asset in the school, and that's really where my interest in AI started. I'm not naturally a very tech-savvy person, but I do love people, and I consider myself a very people person. So in order to assist the people underneath me, that's how I got an interest in AI, because I was noticing that in curriculum reform, there's a lot of work to do and not enough hours in the day. So being a big school with fewer resources, we actually couldn't fund staff to have days off and work from home or have collaborative planning days. So I had to make more time. And that's where AI came into the picture.
Do you know roughly how many hours you might have saved then?
I do, because we're part of the AIS, the workload reduction program. So they track our data over time. So they've got data from when we first began the program without AI compared to now when we're using AI, and we are significantly below the average. So we're on average saving about 52 hours a week through using AI in education.
Wow. Okay.
Whilst also improving pedagogy.
Right.
In that data, it was also programming, marking.
Yeah,
so
true.
it was basically the entire job, both face-to-face and work outside of school. So that's how they've gathered that data.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Now, in the case of what you're doing with NotebookLM, that's about efficiency for teachers and improving quality and saving time. But you're not using it with students. You're producing assets that you use with students, like curriculum resources and things like that. Do you think the students know?
No, because we are always using our professional judgment to adjust the output accordingly. Like with every AI, NotebookLM doesn't always get it right. And so we're very much about keeping the human in the loop. And so they wouldn't know that, well, I hope they don't know, or they haven't asked us actually. But I don't think they know that we're using it, because it very much sounds like us. Because when we are programming these brains, as you mentioned, we're giving up our personality and our stylistic features. So that's what it's giving us in return.
Was there a reason in school that, why you utilized NotebookLM rather than, say, a gem inside Gemini or a whatever else?
We liked the fact that the brains were shareable. So we could share it with other teachers in our organisation.
Oh, okay, cool.
Because we often have many teachers teaching the exact same subject. And so rather than doubling up the work, we just thought, because NotebookLM can be shared, that's a great way of getting everyone on board and in the same direction, in the same stylistic style. Given that we have teachers teaching out of subject area and a number of early career teachers, we thought that was a great way of also supporting them. But also we've got a license for that. So it's a secured platform. So we don't necessarily need to de-identify information like our school name, but we do so regardless as best practice. So we just thought that was easy to set up and it was shareable. It ticked those two boxes. Teachers love change. Many people would argue against that, but I actually think teachers are teachable. They love learning. So by nature, they're okay with change. What we have a problem with is digestion in schools, the rate of change. And so NotebookLM was very easy to use. It was a quick win for them, and they saw the value in that. So it was something that they were very quickly able to digest, which then really easily led us into further discussion about other AI tools and how they can be used. So we actually haven't had any resistance to change.
That's very, very, very cool.
Do you know, that shareability thing is a really interesting thing, because as you're talking about it, I'm thinking about the scenarios where have been blocked from sharing things. There are limitations in all the different systems about what you can share and how much information you can share as part of like a custom agent. But in NotebookLM, you can create a massive data source, like the example you showed with all your school policies, the example of what I've done with putting all of the research papers from the podcast. The one we did where we put all 4 series from 11 to 14 of the podcast episodes into it, and you can have a conversation with it about that, and that can be shared with absolutely anybody.
I think this is great. Maria, you're obviously doing an amazing job there at Oran Park. It's fantastic. What's next for you then? You seem to have got a good strategy. You've got an idea of what you're doing with the brains, and you've got the different tools around it. What are you thinking of next?
So this year we've actually labelled it the Year of the Student. So our staff are well-versed-ish, as much as you can be in such a dynamic landscape with AI. But this year's all about educating our students. So we've just launched our AI assessment scale. And so students are able to use AI in assessment at teacher's discretion with notification, but also training our students on how to use NotebookLM for study. So that's where we're starting this year.
Cool. And so I suppose you mentioned AI assessment scale, and randomly I was just looking behind you and there was Leon just sharing the AI assessment scale. Are you using something like that where you give them like green, amber and red?
Yeah, it is similar to that, although ours is not as comprehensive as Leon's. We have scaled it back to 3 levels: no AI, AI as assistant and AI as collaborator. And we did that because when we first launched our scale and started discussing what it would look like, our staff weren't fully across AI. And so we needed our staff to feel confident before we launched this to our students. But we knew that we couldn't hold off any longer with putting something out because our students were using AI in assessment. And so we needed to take a stance. And that stance couldn't be no AI because AI can be permissible in some areas. And if it's not, that's collusion. And collusion's been occurring long before AI even came on the scene with students. The 3 levels is easy to understand for both our students, parents, and teachers.
Awesome. Yeah, sounds fantastic. What an amazing coup to find Maria today.
Yeah,
Great.
fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's such a great space. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm not tech savvy myself. And so if I'm able to do it, there is hope for many, many more.
Oh, that's amazing.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for
Thank
having
you.
me. Thank you again.
Okay, we're still here at the task day, the Anglican schools, talking about AI, and I've grabbed another presenter, Nathan Jones from Marsden Park Anglican College. What kind of profile do you have for the school?
Growing school.
Yep.
We've only been in existence. This is our 3rd year officially as a school.
Oh, wow.
So I'm only teaching years 7 through to 9 at the moment because that's all that's rolling through. So we
Yeah.
started with 1 year group rolling up, which has been interesting and really, really awesome actually, because it means that my focus is much narrower. I can explore a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, that means that there aren't that many established practices and you're establishing things as you go along.
Correct. And I was lucky enough to get in at ground zero. So when I started, the science department was all of me. And so whatever I wanted to try and do, I got to try and do.
So you're in a new school. You're a fan of new technology that is changing every 5 minutes. How do you put a framework around all of that?
My framework for using technology, which includes AI, is pretty standard. Is the technology, if I'm using it, should let me either do stuff more efficiently, whether that's preparing or marking or in class, or it should give me access to new tools and opportunities that I didn't have access to before, things that I couldn't do without it. And if it's not doing either of those 2 things, then maybe it gets filtered out of my workflow.
Okay, so I'm thinking of an example like help me create lesson plans quicker.
Yeah, so doing stuff like that, yes, absolutely. I've found with AI, there are lots and lots of things where it can make me much, much faster in terms of how I approach my work.
And also allow you to give new learning experiences for students.
Yes, absolutely. The ability for it to make interactive simulations, applications, or fake scenarios or stories or videos, music, whatever creative bent I've got, I can now access part of that, which before would have either taken me a very long time or I just don't have that skill. You've got to have a bit of a willingness to play around. But if something's not ticking one of those boxes, you just be prepared to dump it and look at something else. Once you find something that works, you may as well keep it. You don't have to be changing every 5 minutes once you've found something that's actually working.
Okay, so that willingness to play, that's a great idea, but where do you find the time to play?
You kind of just have to like book periods into your weekly routine or fortnightly routine, whatever you have, and set up, okay, I'm planning ahead for a unit. And Okay, what do I want to do with this unit? Well, maybe you start with a brainstorming. So you go to your Copilot, your Chat GPTs, whatever it is. I'm teaching this subject to, and this is where if you understand AI, you can give it a bit more of a context. So there's an older thing, prompt crafting, where context, role, action, format, target. If you give it one of those, I'm teaching forces to year 7 in New South Wales. Give me some ideas that would be engaging for a 2-week project, or for a whole 10-week unit, or for a single lesson, whatever it happens to be that you want to. You do have to have a layer of the AI is going to tell you are brilliant. They are designed to be very helpful and tell you you're amazing, and the students are going to love this. And so I actually have a little standard protocol, a Copilot agent I call my black hat adversary. And any ideas I really like, I put in. And its job is just to go, nah, you're going to run into this issue and this issue and these things. And I find that really good grounding to flatten the ideas and bring them back to reality. But yeah, between the two ideas of brainstorming and reality checking, normally can come up with the spark of something good and different. And then I can look at how do I implement that.
It is fascinating, isn't it? That you can ask AI to give you an idea, and it'll give you an idea, or it'll cheer on one of your ideas. And then you can say to it, be realistic. And it takes on a different persona. Okay, so bring me into your classroom. What do I see as a student that's different to perhaps what you might have done in the past?
Okay, so there's a variety of things, and it depends on the lesson. I still have some lessons that are very traditional because there's a whole variety of things, right? But I will actively encourage students, if it's appropriate, to make use of AI. Maybe it's to create an image. Maybe it's to scaffold a project, right? Especially if you've got students that struggle with organization. Cool, let's put this assignment into it and get it to give you a checklist of the steps you need to do, right? And then I've got some students that's still overwhelming. So you tell it, just give me the first step on the screen. Don't print anything else till I tell you I'm done. And it's not doing the work for them at this point, but it's breaking a task down into chunks they can manage. We go ahead and do it.
That shows a realism, which is that students are going to be using it anyway. It's almost like you're training them how to use it well.
That's the idea, right? Is they're going to be, regardless of what you do, they're going to use it. They may not use it directly at school if it's nicely blocked and tied down by whatever your security is. But as soon as they get home, they're going to be using it. So you're not going to stop it. So you're better off attempting to at least steer it, direct it, educate around it, than trying to ban it, because banning it's just not going to work.
Yes, and if you ban something, you send it underground, people then start using it in ways that either aren't well informed or where they're not getting good advice from others.
Especially because AI can still hallucinate. As good as the engines are getting, it still makes mistakes. And so teaching them not to trust the initial things, to not trust the little AI prompt that pops up on the Google box, right, without checking the references.
Yep.
A good strategy, obviously, if you're welcome to use AI, but as an appendix, I want you to paste all your prompts.
Yes.
I don't mind that you've used AI, but show me what you got it to do. And I think that also gives the students freedom to play. Sometimes I will actively take them through using an AI tool. The AI tool may not even be that important to the work they're doing, but I know that next time they're doing a work, well, I've seen that tool and go, yeah, I could do that. I can make a website. I can make a song. I can create an image that will fit this, whatever it happens to be. And so, yeah, they get better and better at seeing the potential for the technology, and hopefully we train them how to use it to support their learning and their communication and not replace their learning, which is the real danger. The creativity comes from the students seeing how to use it to support whatever it is they're doing. That's where your creativity comes in. And it comes back to that original philosophy of they now have access to tools that they couldn't do stuff with before.
So how do you handle the situation where we've heard from many students that the situation they come across is one teacher is incredibly enthusiastic and teaches them how to do it, and another takes the view of, no, AI is banned in my classroom and I know nobody's using it. What's the professional attention there?
Sometimes what it really takes, I think when they're banning it, is sometimes out of a fear or an unknown. I don't know what it's going to do.
Yes.
And sometimes I feel all it really needs is someone to show them what the potential can be and how easy it can be to use or access, or also open their eyes to the reality that, well, your kids are doing it anyway. But it can create tension. Ultimately, though, if you do have someone who really wants to resist and ban it in the classroom, unless the school has a policy that must be followed, you can't stop that.
Yes.
Right? It's going to be a thing.
Yeah.
But you can encourage it and you can demonstrate its potential. And I guess my philosophy is an attitude I've taken for a long time as a teacher when introducing new stuff is I'm going to go over here and turn a light on, and hopefully some of you wander across to see what's happening.
That's a great analogy. Yeah.
That's moth to a flame, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just lucky enough that my current principal and head of senior school are happy for me to explore and tinker and trust me not to screw up too badly. I'm doing it because I want to explore, and I'm just hoping other people come along for the journey.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Nathan. We've got Patrick Ell. Patrick?
Woo! G'day.
Patrick is from Roseville College, originally from England. I'm impressed with your good day there, Patrick.
Thank you. I'm practicing.
And Patrick is the K-12 AI integration lead at Roseville College. Roseville College is a private school, which isn't unusual for Australia. Let's just continue this conversation around students, because we have heard so much about what students should and shouldn't be doing. And I've heard from you that you've got to focus on what students are doing.
Yes, that's the plan. So I think one of our values at the college that we like to espouse is every student known. And that's something that we work towards in everything that we do. And in my role as our integration lead, we wanted to build a defensible strategy for what we're going to do in 2026 in AI. And we've built that strategy based on a developing understanding of what's going on in our community with our staff and our students. So we've been running surveys for coming up to 2 years. And we're trying to build our strategy based on an understanding of what's actually happening on the ground.
So can you tell us some of the secrets that we'd all love to know about, like,
Sure.
what is happening with students at AI?
The horse has bolted and it's moving incredibly fast, but it's not out of sight. So we've got about 90% of our students have used a large language model of some kind. About 56% report that they're doing that weekly at least. About 44% say they don't use it at home. So majority use is in the classroom. Another really interesting driving stat for us is only about 23% of the students said that they've seen their teachers modeling how to use AI well, but 56% are not hearing about it in the home either. So we've got this little insight there that we are the institution, the place where they're going to learn and see about AI, but they're not necessarily thinking we're the ones in the best position to teach them about it.
Okay, let me just rehearse some of that I've just heard. So the majority are using it. Most of them are using it at school, not necessarily at home. And they want to know more, but they don't think it's the school's role to tell them.
Correct. I think,
Wow.
They do want to know more. And there is a lot of uncertainty about what's allowed, what's not. Most of them know that if you hand in just some AI slop, it's cheating. But most of the girls were fascinated when they found out they could actually reference a large language model, incorporate it into their workflow properly. And so there is an appetite for knowledge. And we've tried to address that through various means. And we're having open conversations with our upper senior girls from 9 to 12, where my brief was to blow the doors open. And that's what I was asked to do. Blow the doors open about AI.
Could you do that in a Michael Caine voice?
Michael Caine, I was going to say.
I'm only supposed to blow the doors off. Not sure if I'm supposed to swear on it. So in those conversations, we said to the girls, we know you're using it. And we want you to use it. So now let's shift the conversation from hush-hush, which it was also with teachers. I remember a couple of years ago, it was you'd whisper, use ChatGPT. And now it's an open conversation. So we want the same with our students so that we can start to claim back a little bit of that space. But of course, we can't claim credibility through authority. Just because we're teachers doesn't mean we actually know. We have to earn credibility through modeling and practice and transparency. So we need to develop our skills so we can claw back some of that space where they start to think, hey, you've got something to offer for me. You can teach. And I think putting in place a role like mine, where I'm now come off class 2 days a week, 2 days a week, full-time AI integration, has been a fantastic signal that we're intentional about this. And I think off the back of the research, we've developed 4 spheres where we want to push the conversation. One, I'm calling influence, not teaching. How do we influence the conversation in our community? There's our professional development as our teachers, there's our academics, and how do we use technology purpose? So across those 4 domains, that's where we're thinking, what decisions are we making now? What plans are we making for the short future? Because of course, we know that there is no long-term, things will change.
Yeah.
So Dan, I told you we were living in a bubble because I think we said, well, last year was the year of AI agents. The year before was the year of AI, but you're talking about the year of AI now from a college point of view.
The brief that I was given was to think about how to create the opportunity for all our staff to build their confidence and capacity with AI. So not technical proficiency, not becoming masters of any given tool, but the ability for us to be able to launch whenever the new thing comes along that we really want to invest in. So that's kind of the broad goal of the year of AI. But I think really it was about elevating the conversation and making it very open.
Are you bringing the community on that journey with you throughout that conversation? Because
I think that's a growth space for us. We're trying to bring the students along with us. We're developing a year 5 to 12 learning continuum, which is delivered through the library, where they're going to get some explicit sort of learning. I hesitate to use teaching, as I said, but influence. But in terms of the broader community, I think we've got some room there to grow and to bring them into the conversation as well. I'm personally surprised that we haven't had more parents knocking on the door saying, what's going on? Like, I'd have actually expected that a lot more by now. So we're talking about how do we get on the front foot there. So we've got a few ideas of how we'll do that, hopefully across this year.
Yeah, is influence the first pillar you mentioned, and that's what I was thinking about, the community aspect. That's great, yeah.
It's interesting you say about the parents knocking on the door, because all the feedback I'm getting in other conversations is that it's one of parents' big unanswered questions is, well, what should I help my child to think about in career terms, in future education terms? They're not sure how to guide them because they know things are changing, or they sense things are changing. But
the conversation we're hearing in the media is starting to filter through, not necessarily always helpful, but I think parents are starting to think in those terms, especially for the school leavers. And I've had 1 or 2 parents recently actually just ask me about what's going on with careers, and I'm very pleased to tell them that actually myself and our head of careers at the college are having lots of conversations about this and trying to make sure that we present a balanced view to the students, because although we know graduate entry roles seem to be the first roles being affected by AI hasn't really disseminated into the economy yet. It's not as disruptive as the hype might say for now. So I think there is a role for us to play as a college with our community and informing them and talking with them, but also learning from them. Because, of course, we work at our profession in our industry, but there must be many people in our community using AI daily who would be very useful. So one of the ideas we have, let's have a round table with parents where we're listening, like, what are you doing? How do you view this? How do you view your graduates?
That'd be fascinating. So you also earlier talked about process versus product. The idea that we're going to have to move on from the way that we think about assessing, or is it wider than that?
I have this little phrase I've been using, which is we're living in a post-product world. So what do I mean by that? Well, it used to be the value exchange was student goes away, produces something, brings it back. We take that as evidence of cognitive graft. You've had to do work.
Yeah.
Of course, now that's threatened, if not obliterated. So in a way, I think it's very optimistic about AI, because if we get it right, then what we might be able to do is allow everybody to focus on the learning process, which is what we've always wanted to do, because that's the transferable skill. Most people have forgotten 99% of what they learn at school, but it's the process of learning that is the transferable skill you want to take on later. Now, my students, I teach year 5, and they often say, what's the point of this? I give them that teacher response. I say, well, we're trying to teach you how to teach yourself anything. That's the transferable skill.
Yeah.
So the danger to me of AI isn't that you can get from A to B quick, because I like getting from A to B quick. It's that you can get from A to B without any of the epistemology in the middle. You're not learning how to think. So then the question, therefore, it's not about prohibition. It's how do you enable the students to use AI whilst also being able to evidence their cognitive growth. So I'll give you a quick example. I've been working with my geography teachers, and what was formerly an essay-based assessment, now the students have to write a news story. They have to do all their research and upload it to a Google folder by 6 p.m. on a certain day, and then the folder's locked down. In class, they create this social media sort of news page. And then on another lesson, there's a 15-minute, 3 unseen question written task. And you're only allowed to use the news report that you make. But you can use as much AI as you like in preparing the material. So if you didn't actually engage with the content you created, you can't use memory device
you would
thing
know
to
it.
answer your questions. We're going to figure it out. You're going to work fairly well. There's an example of how we're going to enable, you can use AI.
Love that idea.
But we need to figure out how to validate if you engaged with the content.
Yeah, that is such a fantastic way, because I think everyone is whirling around in that conversation about how do we assess what we can't trust.
And I think one of the emerging conversations I'm trying to think about, which is very difficult, is how do we provide enough variety for the students that it isn't just all in-class validation, all purposeful running. I had a conversation with our head of inclusive learning, and it's placing a big because of all the adjustments that need to be, scribes, all the rest. So it's causing stress in multiple areas.
And I was speaking to one of your staff today, actually, who works in the SEL area, and she was saying that there was lots of Chinese students that were bringing in their own, like, Chinese versions of AI. Like you said, they're going out and getting their own tools to support them with their learning. Look, in a proper, with high integrity to a lot of the ways, but then you can't monitor a lot of that because you don't know what they're using.
They don't know what they're using.
Yeah.
So, as an example, I tried building across the end of last term a gem that was going to take an assessment piece and allow a student to interrogate it, ask questions, simplify the language, maybe make some glossaries in Mandarin or whatever language you wanted. And it worked, but the students didn't want to use it. Because they just wanted to get 10 steps down the road with one prompt, not go through that process. So this is a very big challenge. And to me, actually, biggest, most impactful thing about AI for us in education is that for the first time in human history, we can have dialogue with information. Information was previously always static, and all the technologies from human history, be it from writing systems and cuneiform to great libraries, were about the recording and dissemination of information. This is wild. And I think it's changing the nature of what, as teachers, of what we do, and as students, how they can access what we were offering.
You're so right about that dialogue thing, because I think that's one of the values that I get from it, is being able to have a conversation about something. It gives me a piece of data. It's like, oh, that's interesting. Tell me a bit more about it. In the past, I would have needed an expert or a lot of time.
Yeah, exactly right. And now you can push it and control it and take it on rolls. All of this with a pinch of salt and understanding of the limitations of the tools and all those kinds of things. But the progress you can make on your own in an area of interest that you have, or a task you have to achieve, is so exciting. And I think one of the big takeaways for me is it's not about amending what we do. It's about augmenting what we do. It's changing our work. Like, I think if schools still look like they do now in 10 years, we haven't taken advantage of this tech. I sort of think at the moment, and technology will change, one of the great promises is to help teachers with what I call the bookending of the process. Content delivery, and then assessment and marking at the end, and this overburdened administration that sits on top of all of it. And if I could help with those bookends, then the teacher can spend more time in the middle asking exactly that kind of question. Like, how are you going with this learning? What have you found easier? What have you finding still hard? How can I help you with where you're at? Instead of me spending most of my energy delivering content, hoping it landed, and then waiting for some evidence from you that it did, which you hand in to me a few days later or a week later. I think I'd love to see that. I'd love to see tech providers maybe focus a little less on content pathways, reasoning that we've developed this pedagogically sound way of students engaging with the content, and more on, we've figured out a way to aggregate data for you on what they're actually doing, because that's what we can then base our decisions on. Because actually a lot of products where you say, oh, they've spent all this time building this tool, where you're actually, as a teacher, offloading responsibility for the learning onto the tool and the journey that they've created for your students to go through, as opposed to curating that yourself. So
good point.
I'd like to hold on to that decision-making, especially as a junior school teacher. But the more data that I can get about the process of learning, the better off we'll be.
Interesting. Well, that's been a fascinating conversation today. It's taken me on a completely different journey in my mind.
Yeah, I love the student-centered nature of that whole conversation, because, students are in a world of their own. They're in a world that we didn't inhabit when we were students.
So I don't think we can assume anything's going to stay the same. So that's, I guess, the insight.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Patrick, for seeing us today. It's been fantastic.
No, and thank you. And thank you for the podcast. I enjoyed tuning in.
Thank you.
Cool.